We've been bringing up Brock's QBR for a number of hours now, but I want to make sure we know that's not the end-all, be-all. No stat is. But if you do want to play stats, let's go there. If you don't want to play stats, fine. I've been trying all day. In fact, I put it out to the audience. I put it out to you. How can I go about expressing an opinion on the state of the 49er quarterback position without sounding like I'm campaigning for someone? Because I don't think he needs it. He doesn't need defending. He doesn't need a campaign manager. He has made some bad throws at bad times. No one's trying to run from that. So if you want me to use QBR, great. If you just want me to use my eye test and tell you that I see a lot of elite level throws, there's also been some big mistakes. But the overall picture of Brock Purdy, the player, I find to be really good. I don't find it to be something that should be questioned in terms of job status. If you want to get mad at a throw and you want to say he played like crap that game, great, do that. That's not like we don't question people's job status when they have a bad game.
Right.
We don't like Nick Bosa has a bad game. What, do you want to bench the guy? So anyway, the whole offense-defense thing, which I don't love, but I get it. The Niner fan base has, like, we've got to fight over something. And so this 2-week period, it's been, are you on team offense or team defense?
Right.
I'm guilty of it too. I think the defense is a bigger concern. That's why I would say it that way. I'm not against anyone. But here are some of the numbers. I went and found them during the break. Okay? Total team defense, they're 10th. Rush defense, 5th. Pass defense, 19th. Red zone defense, 23rd. Third down defense, 21st.
Yeah.
You like those numbers? Knock yourself out. Tell me that the defense is awesome and that we're making crap up. Go ahead. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. You want to make it about scapegoats. You want to make it about who's got who's back and who doesn't have who's back. Knock yourself out. For 3 weeks, both sides haven't been good enough. That's a fact. But unfortunately, we've spent 2 weeks now talking about the job status of two people who should not be having their job status questioned.
Brock Purdy and Steve Wilks.
Thank you. We shouldn't be talking about either of their jobs. Nobody's coaching.
Steve Wilks is not. I don't think that he'll be back next year.
Well, but
I'm already on the record as saying that that's not going to be what's going to happen.
There could be multiple reasons for that.
Right.
They could win the Super Bowl, and he could get hired as somebody's head coach. So you might be right. I mean, what's your thinking behind saying that?
My thinking is that this has not been a fit in terms of the scheme they like to run and how Steve Wilks has gone about running the scheme. I think there's a disconnect between the players and the coordinator. Such a disconnect that now he's going to have to come out of the booth and go down on the sideline. If he wanted to be on the sideline, he would have been on the sideline from week one going forward. But when he came to the Niners, I'm sure he was given a choice of, hey, Steve, where do you want to call the plays? And he would much rather call the plays up in the booth. Kyle Shanahan himself was quoted as saying he would rather, as an offensive play caller, be up in the booth himself. Now, he doesn't have that luxury as the play caller who is also the head coach, and so he's down on the sideline. But there are benefits to being up in the booth, and I think that Steve Wilks would have preferred to be up in the booth, but now you need to make adjustments because things aren't working, and now he's going down on the sideline. I think that no matter how this year ends, even if they win the Super Bowl, I can't see him coming back as defensive coordinator. I think that the relationship between he and the defense has not been good enough this year.
Interesting. Even with a whole half season to go.
For sure. Yeah. And if the defense...
even if it rebounds, you think that there'll be some sort of a move?
Well, if it rebounds, then everyone's going to say, well, the players made the adjustment. I don't know if the coordinator is the reason. And, you know, we've seen this team with a new defensive coordinator virtually every year. And it's kind of been what they've done.
But that's because they've been hired away for head coaching jobs.
Right. I don't think that Steve Wilks, I think if the defense continues to play the way that they had, and, you know, the numbers you threw out there, the rankings, I always wonder, like, what do we do in terms of how do we base defensive rankings? Is it on yardage? Is it yards per play?
So
is it a combination of them?
It's all those things. Like, I think when you talk about total defense, that tends to be yards per game allowed.
Okay.
And the 49ers are 10th in yards per game allowed. And none of these stats are anything more than that.
Right.
They're stats, which means they're not perfect. You know why? These teams that we're ranking them against, they've all played different opponents.
Exactly.
So if I'm playing Miami and you're over here playing Pittsburgh, well, we get a completely different game that we're playing.
Yeah.
So the 49ers have been both the beneficiaries of that and the opposite. They had what I thought was one of the best defensive performances of any team I saw all year long with the way they play the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday night. However, they've also gotten games in their hip pockets against the Steelers, against the New York Giants, who are the worst offense alive this year in the NFL, and that's going to skew the stats. And then they went against a Cleveland Browns team that is, A, not a good offense, and was being quarterbacked by their third-string QB, and they ran the ball all over them. So they've got demerits, too. And so I get it. These numbers are imperfect. There's no other way to describe them. But they are what they are, and somewhere in there is also a story told. And for me, here's the story I think you can easily tell about the 49ers right now. Number one, this defense is not as good as it was last year. Number two, this offense is better than it was last year, at least in the first half of the season.
Right.
Okay, so that's where my opinion comes from. I think Brock Purdy has elevated this team offensively from where it was before his arrival, and I think the defense right now is slipping downhill. Doesn't mean they can't turn it around.
Yeah.
That's why I'm more concerned about the defense than the offense.
I do think that those two statements are in general true, but I also realize that this team is more reliant on each of the two units than maybe any other team in football. And you hear the expression complementary football, and that describes the Niners maybe more than any other team in the National Football League. In other words, when the offense is good, then it gives the defense a chance to be good. When the offense isn't as good, it puts the defense in a spot where it has to be good, and of late it has not been good. And I mentioned this to you during the break, but over the last 4 weeks, during which time the Niners have played 3 total games, Brock Purdy is 29th in the league in quarterback rating. Over the last 4 weeks, 3 losses and a bye, his QB rating is 77.9. That's 29th in the league.
Yep.
That's not good.
Nope.
Now, for the year, he's number 2. And if I looked at the first, I guess that'd be 5 or 6 weeks of the year.
Must be he was like unequivocally far
number
away
one.
number one.
He'd be number one.
Oh.
And he was great. And when he was great and Trent Williams was healthy and they were able to run the football, then the defense was better. If you look at the time of possession for the 49ers, in the first 5 weeks of the year, they were at 35, 34, 35 minutes a game. Offense on the field, running the ball, keeping the ball, defense fresh, rested, forcing 3 and outs. The last 3 weeks, the run game has been bad. No Trent Williams, and teams have gone 5 on the line, and they're trying to take away Christian McCaffrey, and the Niners have fallen behind in games, and they've been forced to throw it more, and Brock Purdy in this offense is not designed to come from behind.
Right.
Defense is playing 33 or more minutes on the field, and they're giving up a lot of yardage, and they're giving up a lot of points, and the offense is unable to help them out. So I do think that these two things are interrelated for this team more than any other team in football.
Well, there is, or I think, really, like if people want to be open-minded here, there's a really interesting conversation to be had about what Kurt Warner was talking to us about yesterday.
Yeah.
That you have to pick what you're good at in the NFL. And the 49ers have chosen to be really good at the run game, in the trenches, a system that allows the quarterback, if you've got a good decision maker, and they play with a lead really, really well. So if you go back to before Brock, under Kyle Shanahan, have the 49ers ever been good in the fourth quarter while trailing? Well, the answer is obviously no.
Right.
It does not mean that they have never come from behind. I think of Garoppolo's last drive against the Rams a few years ago that got him into the playoffs. Doesn't mean you're not allowed to go on a good drive, and it's not an excuse for Brock. But if the offense is literally built so that trailing in the fourth quarter is your weakest point, you are the weakest link.
Thank you.
Goodbye. If that's the way it's built, then, again, without making any excuses, does it help sort of shape what we've watched with Brock Purdy, who suddenly seems like this worse quarterback only when we get to the fourth quarter and you're trailing. That's where almost all of the mistakes have come. That's not good. That's not okay. But apparently, is that as much a flaw in the system that Kyle Shanahan has built as much as it is with whoever is quarterbacking it?
Yes. And I've always thought that all along, which is why I've said, even before Kurt Warner and others have agreed with me and really highlighted the point, Brock Purdy is a system quarterback. And as Kurt Warner said to us yesterday, they're all system quarterbacks. And we can talk about the system as it pertains to Jacksonville. And if you watch the game on Sunday, you will see that Trevor Lawrence is a system quarterback. And the system they run is usually one running back and one tight end, or one running back and two tight ends, and they have three wide receivers. And when they run the ball, they don't use a fullback. And they use the quarterback to run the ball a lot, not on design runs, but he'll break containment, and Trevor Lawrence will beat you with his legs because that's what he does. The Niners system is to run it, to fake it, to stretch it, to bootleg it, two running backs, one tight end, sometimes two running backs, two tight ends. They almost never are on the field without a tight end, which means they would go four wide receivers, and they will run it first. They'll run it often, and that's their system. So if Jacksonville gets behind, they have a better chance of coming back based on their system.
Yep.
They'll go three wides. They have a tight end who is almost as good as George Kittle, Evan Ingram, and they can throw it to their running back like the Niners can throw it to their running back, and Jacksonville is more built to come from behind.
Well, think about what they did in the playoffs last year.
Yeah, they came from behind.
What was the score of the game at halftime? 27-3?
That sounds about right.
Something like that with the Chargers? And they came back. You're not going to see the Niners do that. You're not going to see the Niners do that. But you also hope you never see the Niners fall down 27-3.
27-7 at
27-7. 27-7 at halftime. Kurt Warner on our show yesterday on the 49ers offense and the way it's built when it gets behind.
One of the big factors is they find themselves down late in games. And I've always said it, this offense is built around, running the football and play action. They're not built to come from behind. They're not built to be a drop back team. And so when you get into that mode, it's a little bit more difficult for them. And because Kyle's so good and the offense has been so good, they don't find themselves in that situation very often. But, you've heard the stats. I heard the stats on how few times they've come back when they've been down in games. And so much of it is because, A, they're not down that much, and B, they're built a little bit differently to stay ahead and to play a certain way. And so when you force the quarterback into those kind of situations where you have to throw and make every throw to win games, that's when mistakes happen, no matter who you are. But overall, Brock is still playing really good football.
Okay, that's from Kurt Warner on our show yesterday. And oh, by the way, window is open. And it is open for the last time.
This is it.
Man, thank you, Kenny Loggins. Last chance, play a game of knockout at Chase Center with us. We'd really love to meet some of you there. Make sure you're listening for the next 15 minutes, okay? You don't just need to be here at 4:30. You need to keep listening. Listen for the whole window, because the question we ask you could come from anything that is about to be said. But lock in and listen, and then when you hear this sounder... Don't call now, don't call now, don't call now. We'll ask you a question about something we said over these next 15 minutes. And then you call in our contest line, which I'm not going to give you yet because maybe that'll encourage some of you to.
Someone's already calling.
Don't call now, don't call now, don't call now.
I won't call her out, but knock it off. Sorry.
Don't call us, all right? Knock it off. Thank you, Ryan.
I see the names pop up on the thing.
I know. Anyway, you'll have a chance to call in. First one to answer the question correctly is going to be our Mr. or Mrs. Irrelevant of this contest. Last one in the door.
Yeah.
to hang out at Chase Center in a few weeks and play some knockout, and hopefully everybody's ligaments will stay attached.
My guy, Bepo, a.k.a. Brian Posadas, he's on the YouTube feed right now. He wants in. The last time that the Warriors held a knockout contest at Chase Center, he was the winner. So if he doesn't get in the contest, I'll have him call in and give advice to those of you who are in the contest, because Bepo got it done. He shared the video with me, and he missed some shots, but quick follow-ups.
Yeah.
Stayed alive, survive in advance.
Shoot your shot. It's all you got.
Yeah, I see you, Bepo. You were the champ.
Wait, is the show over now?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Ladies and gentlemen. And by the way, Jacksonville was down 27-0 in that game.
Oh, they were?
27-7 at the half.
27 at half. Was it really?
Yeah, I'm looking at the log right here.
Good
Evan Ingram,
Lord.
24 seconds left. Ingram from Lawrence to make it 27-7 at the half. And then Marvin Jones with a touchdown. Dicker with a field goal for the Chargers. Zay Jones. Zay. And then Kirk. And then Riley Patterson, the game winner, 31-30. They beat the Chargers, who did what Chargers do.
Oh, they chargered. They
big time
all
chargered
over the place.
They sure did.
I'm glad you brought him up. We had a fun Dibs kind of immature word moment, me and the lovely Christy this week.
Nice.
Well, she looked at me and she's like, I had to change because of bye weeks. My fantasy kicker, I went from Butker to Dicker.
Yeah, Christy.
And we were like, okay.
That's so my sense of humor. From Butker to Dicker.
Like, good Lord.
John, why don't you try Uranus?
Yeah, kickers are getting really suggestive these days in the NFL.
That was my suggestion for John Fisher and a future ballpark destination.
By the way, if Tony Bruno, if we were all still doing shows together, he would not have been able to make it through the segment. Butker and Dicker. The whole thing, it would have been over. Like, I'd have lost him for the last 2 hours of the show.
No doubt.
He'd have been on the floor in the fetal position. All right, Mark in Oakland. What's going on, Mark? What are you doing?
Hey, I'm driving. Thanks for taking my call, by the way. I'm looking at a new apartment.
Oh.
So we'll see how that goes.
Good luck, Mark. Good luck.
Yeah, we'll see how many VOCs all the plastic in this new place.
Yeah, man.
The smell's a little strong. I was like, oh, brand new, awesome. And I walked in one and I was like, oh, wow.
Ooh.
Anyway, that's a different story. This isn't like a home improvement story or show. But that's what I'm doing. But I'm thinking about this Niners thing, and it's usually you guys get my mind going, which I love. It's a much-needed break from my grind every day, so thank you for that. And I'm sitting here, deliberating, and here's what I think, which is all I can say. One, though, real quick on Kurt Warner, what's he saying that Brock Purdy's still playing really good football? Still. You could say the first part of the season, but that just is a weird statement. He's not playing really good, as Dibs pointed out, with the stats. So that kind of statement makes me go like, is this guy just saying what he thinks the audience wants to hear, or what?
No, I don't think that.
Really good.
Yeah, Mark, go ahead with the rest of your point, but I think I can answer where Kurt's coming from, but go ahead.
Okay, so my point is this, though. I think, and this is why I didn't like that red herring of a start. The 49ers, and I think their defense has not been, the reputation was built back in the Harbaugh days. They have never been that shut down of a defense. I don't know stats or otherwise. I just watch them every year, and they have never looked like that. They've looked like they have some good games. Even the year they went to the Super Bowl, they got blown out pretty bad twice. Someone scored almost 50 on them that year. I don't know if you all remember that. So they're not this elite, like they have this reputation like they just stop people consistently all the time, and now they're not. I don't think that's how they've been. The offense has never been that way. They don't have a deep threat. That's not helping, like you pointed out, with the comebacks. And what I think the reality is, at the beginning of the season made it seem like they're really maybe a great team, and they're just not. They're a good team that's kind of in the mix. They're not way above everyone. I think people have figured them out, and here's my whole point. Just like halftime adjustments, I feel like the 49ers got figured out. Big picture over the this era has gotten figured out a bit, and also they got figured out this season. And that's where right now is the time, like when you go in at halftime, you got to make adjustments. So to me right now, it's all on coaching. This team isn't as talented or far above as everyone thinks. I don't even think Bosa's as amazing as everyone thinks. It's just a small margin. It's the coaching. They have to adjust. It's all on the coaching right now. They're at halftime, and they're either going to do it or I think they're just going to have a terrible season and struggle to make the playoffs. It's all on coaching, parsing out the numbers. I agree with Purdy and all that. Doesn't even matter. He's good enough. It's going to be, do they get it done with the coaching? That's what I think.
Yeah, interesting, Mark. Thanks very much for the call, as always. Mark is a little bit more in a finality state of mind than I am. Like, there were a lot of statements in there about, like, actually the 49ers are not really that good of a team. And this defense has never been like that. I don't see it that way on a number of these. I think that when you look at a team that has given up 30 here and there, Kansas City, Super Bowl, last year, whatever, it's like, sure, they're a defense that has gone through a 3 or 4 game hangover each year, but I do think they've been elite, and A, the stats bear that out, but B, the other thing I'd say is I think sometimes when we look at defense in 2023, we're still comparing great defenses to like
the 2000 Ravens.
The Ravens, the Bears. It's not possible anymore. The rule changes have made it such you're never, ever, ever going to see that again. And so even the best defenses are going to have dog games or somebody busts 30 on them sometimes, because quite frankly, all the stuff that those defenses were doing back in the day, they're all penalties now.
Right.
Like,
right.
You can't, like, I don't think you can have that swagger dominance on defense, intimidation, sensation. I don't think you can do it anymore in the NFL.
No, but you can play consistently better than you have this year. And I'm looking at last year.
I'll agree with that.
Coming out of the bye, last year, you won, well, every game. But I'll take the first 6 as an example of what he's talking about. They gave up 16, 10, 0, 17, 7, and 13. That is 63 points in 6 weeks. That's 10 points a game.
That's amazing.
That is solid defense.
Any good offenses in there?
The Chargers, you beat them 22-16.
Yep.
Arizona 38-10, fine. The Saints 13-0 in that really weird game at home. You beat Miami 33-17.
Yep.
That was when Brock.
Good offense.
Yeah.
Good offense.
The defense really kind of saved the bacon. You beat Tommy 35-7, and Tampa was a little bit injured. Tampa was, on the way out. Then you beat Seattle 21-13. Point being, you played professional football teams, and you gave up 10 points a clip. And right now, this defense is in need of that sort of a stretch, because right now, and I looked at time of possession. And if you go back to the games this year that they've won, in every game but one game, they've won the time of possession battle. The Rams, they didn't, but that was a weird game because the Rams dinked and dunked, and you didn't get lucky in that game, but you got a fortunate bounce off Kyron Williams that helped you win that game. That game was a lot tighter than what we all remember.
No doubt. And by the way, to answer his original question on why Kurt Warner says Brock Purdy is still playing good football these last 3 weeks, I do think this, and maybe both sides are wrong to a certain degree. A lot of these quarterbacks who dive into the video, they're going to come out of this and go, all right, well, he threw the ball 32 times, and like 29 of them were elite throws.
Yeah.
And then there were the picks.
That's what Kurt was saying,
So a quarterback is going to look at that and go, dude, that's really good football. And a fan is going to look at that and go, dude, you ruined the whole thing. I don't care what you do for 29 throws if you throw 2 bad ones that ruin the game. And I don't know which side is – you both have a point. You both have a point. But I do think, like, the quarterbacks love maybe the quarterbacking a little bit too much, and I do think it's unfair, although that's life as a fan. One pick, it can ruin the game, but it doesn't mean the guy's now a bad quarterback who had a horrible game, and we should, like, freak out and start talking about people named Sam. Like,
absolutely. But when you have 2 picks on successive throws, one which was ghastly on 1st and goal at the 8,
they were both
and the
bad.
Other one reminded you of Jimmy Garoppolo.
They were both bad.
Now, the first one was a throw that should have never been made. The second one was the one that made you think about Jimmy G. And so the second one was kind of like, because Brock doesn't do that.
Nope.
We're not doing throws right to the other team.